There are three words that can easily cause confusion for students of English. They're advise, recommend, and suggest. They're all about telling other people what you think they should do, but I'd like to take the time in this lesson to find some differences. First, we'll look at differences in terms of meaning and use, and then we'll take the time to look at differences in grammar. So let's start with advise. Advise, we could say, means to tell someone what you think they should do or what decision you think they should make. But I would add to that, you're doing this because you have the expertise, the experience, or some knowledge to know what's best. So people who advise are usually people who have some authority. For example, a doctor can advise a patient. A banker can advise a client. All right, now let's take recommend. It has the same basic definition. Recommend means to tell someone what you think they should do. And I feel that it's the same as advise, but it doesn't have that air of authority. You don't have to be somebody with expertise necessarily. You just believe what you think is best. So friends can recommend an action. Teachers can recommend an action. I would then argue that recommend can be used in more situations, more relationships. The final one was suggest. Suggest is still the same basic definition, telling someone what you think they should do, but it's more about offering an idea. So maybe we can then refine that definition for suggest and say it's to offer an idea about what to do. Perhaps the person has a better idea, but you want to offer the idea for consideration. Okay? All right, so now let's pause and see if you understood my explanation. I'm going to show you 3 sentences, and I want you to decide which of the 3 verbs fits each one. We're only going to use each verb once.
Number 1. We had no plans until Aaron that we have a picnic in the park. Answer: suggested. Why? Because this is an informal situation, and Aaron, to our knowledge, is not an authority. Also, we had no ideas about what to do until Aaron made the suggestion. 2. The lifeguard the swimmers to stay close to the shore. Answer: advised. And this is because the lifeguard is an authority. 3. That the gym have a later closing time so that people could exercise after work. We don't like the present schedule. Answer: recommended. Why? First of all, we're not an authority in this situation. And this is more than just offering an idea for consideration. We don't like the schedule. This suggests we want to change it because the change is the best thing to do. That's what we believe is the best thing to do.
Okay, so now let's talk about grammar. What are the differences among these 3 verbs?
Let's start with advise. You can advise someone to do something. For example, a doctor advises a patient to quit smoking. Or the negative, a doctor advises a patient not to eat fatty foods. You can advise someone on something. For example, a banker advises a client on financial matters, or a professor advises students on academic matters. You can also advise against something. For example, a doctor can advise against smoking. Advise is a verb, and the noun is advice. You can give advice to someone. Or we often say, give a piece of advice. And note that advice is a non-count noun, so you don't use an article. I also want to note that giving advice can be done in a variety of relationships and situations. It doesn't necessarily have to be coming from somebody with expertise or somebody in authority. Recommend. You can recommend something, a noun, You can recommend doing something, and you can recommend that someone do something. For example, I can recommend a change in your sleeping habits, or I can recommend changing your sleeping habits. I can recommend that you change your sleeping habits. Recommend is the verb. It has a noun form, recommendation, and we say make a recommendation. In terms of grammar, suggest is similar to recommend. You can suggest something, suggest doing something, or suggest that you do something. For example, I can suggest a pizza party. I can suggest having a pizza party, or I can suggest that we have a pizza party. Suggest is the verb, the noun form suggestion, and we can make a suggestion.
Okay, so now that we've looked at the grammar, let's pause and do a check and make sure you understand which verbs take which grammatical forms. I'm going to show you sentences, and I'll give you a choice between two verbs. You decide grammatically which verb must complete the sentence.
Number 1. The lawyer advised or recommended his client not to discuss the case with anyone. Answer: advised. Number 2. Jeff suggested or advised that we leave early and allow time for traffic. Answer: suggested. 3. The teacher recommended or advised changing a few lines in my essay. Answer: recommended. 4. My mother loves to advise or recommend me on fashion. Answer: advise. 5. Could I please make an advice or a suggestion? Answer: a suggestion. 6. Laura advised or suggested going out to eat. Answer: suggested. 7. Could I give you a piece of a recommendation or advice? Answer: advice. 8. People drive during snowstorms, but meteorologists advise, recommend, against it. Answer: advise.
All right, I hope all of this has helped. Good luck in your English studies.